And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. And today, my guest is Eliot Marshall. I'll give you some of the highlights of Eliot's bio because it's a little bit different. He's a former professional mixed martial artist and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So don't mess with him. He came up through the ranks on that whole system there, and he earned the IBJJF Pan American titles as a blue, purple, and brown belt. So that's pretty cool. He's also the co-owner and head instructor at Easton Training Center. And one of the things on the personal side is he's been overcome his anxiety, and he now seeks to help others who may be suffering from a similar affliction, which is really interesting. I've been talking to Eliot over the last week or two, and he's just an interesting guy on the MMA side, and he's sort of moving into what we would call thought leadership in terms of developing some new things. So I figured, hey, let's have him on and have a chat. So welcome aboard, Eliot. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. There's only one thing I disagree with you with what you just said.
Okay.
There's no such thing as overcoming. There's just handling in the moment. That's it. I've not overcome anxiety. I just handle it in the moment.
Okay. I'm reading from your bio, so I'm not going to argue. Yeah. So first of all, folks, you don't argue.
Does my bio say that? God damn it.
Yeah, and I, all 5'9" of me, am not going to argue with a black belt. So
it's over the internet. It's over the Peter. It's over the internet, man. This is where all arguing is done now.
Oh, that's true. All right, yeah, bring it on, big guy. I got a black belt. All right. So yeah, well, that's actually probably a better way to say it.
Yeah.
But manage and deal with it. So you've got really two worlds, right? So you've got a stellar career on the MMA side, which is just amazing. And now, and then you've got your string of gyms. And now you're sort of pondering and starting to develop a different thread of content not related to your professional MMA experience. So tell us where that comes from.
I guess I would say it's three worlds, right? Like pro athlete,
yep,
entrepreneur,
yep,
and now like this other side of entrepreneurship with like thought leadership and my own personal brand. It came from my breakdown.
Okay.
What I like, like that very acute 3 years ago it was period where I was, my mental breakdown / spiritual awakening is what I like to call it. And what got me out of it was other people.
Okay.
Like my people got me out. So I saw that one, that in is the way out, first of all, with anxiety, depression, and things like that, or whatever it is you're doing. And two, man, we need other people. There's no such thing as a self-made man. Nobody did anything on their own. So let's get out there and really try to help and inspire some people.
Interesting. So coming from your own experience, and it's interesting that you say, nobody's doing this on their own. We didn't see 10 people with you in the ring, but there were many people with you getting you to each of those moments every step of the way. So it's really interesting because there are team sports and not team sports, and MMA is clearly not a team, not a team sport like baseball, right? So really interesting. So from this spiritual awakening, this breakdown, whatever we want to spin we want to put on it, good, bad, or just be authentic and honest. So you learned a lot, right? So tell us what you learned and now why you're codifying or putting together what you learned to share with others.
The number one thing I learned is Marcus Aurelius' quote, "The impediment of action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is the way." That's the number one thing I learned. So like I said a second ago, in is the way out. You can't run from the devil. The devil's going to be with you. He is always with you. Yeah, he's with you. And he's going to stay with you. It's how you deal with your devil, how you deal with all of your demons and all the things that you do so terribly that will make you great. Failure is the only indicator of success.
So let me push on that for a minute, Eliot. So you went through this experience and you probably dove into a lot of the available literature out there in the self-help world or in the spiritual world or in the overcoming obstacle world. There's resilience. I mean, there's so many genres of things that one could dive into. So I'm assuming you did some of that, right? You saw what was out there.
So I went to therapy.
Okay.
I got on some medication because I had to get on because I was.
Yep.
Have you ever dealt with this? Have you ever danced with the devil like this before?
I think we all have in our own ways. I don't know the severity of it, but yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yes. So this one's an interesting one. Like it's OCD, right? Which is
Yep.
a tortured logic trap where I'm not like sitting there touching the counter 5 times, right? It's thought OCD.
Got it. Got it.
So where you cannot logic your way out. You are stuck in your mind and you are fucked.
Right.
Sorry, can I
You're too
curse?
late now, and you're a black belt. So.
Okay. Okay.
We covered that. So no, but
Well, how much it just how much editing do you want to do, I guess? So
yeah, not much. There we go.
all right.
So no, but where I was going is I want to understand. Therapy is one place to go, but did you look at
And then
any of the
I
other?
read a
Okay, so
lot.
that's where I was going. So you read a lot.
Yeah.
So
Stoicism.
okay. Oh,
Stoicism.
that's so funny. I just read a book on critical thinkers, and there's a whole piece on the Stoics. So you got
Yeah.
everybody finds a piece, and that's where I was going to. They'll gravitate towards something, right? It could be Norman Vincent Peale, it could be
Yes.
Stoicism,
Yes.
whatever it is, and there's no right, wrong, whatever. So you sort of latch onto Stoicism, which has a good brand. It's been around for like thousands of years, so I guess it's a good thing, right? But now you're coming out of the other side, and it doesn't mean that you're all healed and life is perfect and
Right.
it's rainbows and fairy tales, but now you have your own perspective that you want to put out into the world as thought leadership. So tell me a little bit about sort of the Stoic world according to Eliot, if that's not just quoting the greats.
So one, the present moment is the only moment we have. First of all, so we have to start here. You have to realize that today is the day. There are no other. And once I start there, what do I do today? My goal today is to realize that I have been so incredibly lucky. First of all, with parents that I was born to. And second of all, just to struggle enough so that I can realize this potential that I have, right? Just enough struggle, because we don't know. If I would have, because everyone likes to say I'll make it through whatever, but you don't know that, okay? Because sure, things that you made it through some really, really hard times, but what if they were 10% harder? Because 10% harder is possible.
Right. Or if you were in a place where you
Right.
could handle 20% less, right? I mean, there's a situational
Right.
piece. Yep.
It's situational, which you have very little to do with. And that's just the way it kind of rolled out for me. So therefore, my job now, as what I would say is the luckiest human alive, is to now go sprinkle some of that luck dust on other people.
Okay.
On as many other people as I can, without telling them they're not as lucky as me. With telling them, yo, you can do this. You're not a victim. You are not stuck in the station that you are currently, that you were put in with maybe outside of your control. You can overcome.
Got it. That's great. So now you're sort of in this post-experimental phase of sort of gelling up your content and the concepts and the verbiage and the language. What are the things that you have done and are doing that is basically everything's an experiment in life, right? Like, what are you doing to experiment getting it out there? I know you have a podcast, but what are you doing with this stuff now? Because you and I have had some conversations around sort of what's next for you in this realm. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So I have a okay. So first and foremost, I teach martial arts every day.
Yep.
I'm on the jiu-jitsu mat because the jiu-jitsu mat creates the struggle. I believe I have rules of my life. And rule number one is that we have to do jiu-jitsu. And because I have not found a better way to create a good human being than through this method of what, if you're on the mat, you're getting beat up, you're getting put in these awful, awful places, like right off the bat, like you're just like, and that's the hardest thing to do. It's not just mental failure. It's not just like, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. It's like, it's a primal failure. Somebody
Literally, right.
Somebody kicked your ass today, literally. So there's that end of the struggle, right? Which is so important for humans. And I think we're taking it away from ourselves. We're making our lives easier every day, which I won't say is wrong, right? Like technology is a great thing, but we still need to find this. This is in our DNA. We can't help but search this primalness out of us, or in us.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. But where I was going though, I'm trying to figure out the outlet. So one outlet is you have a podcast.
I teach, right?
Right.
I
Another
teach.
outlet
I
is you
podcast.
teach. How else are you getting the thinking, the messaging, the thought leadership out to the world, either one on one, at scale? How else are you trying to get it out?
Yeah, mostly just my podcast and my social media, right?
I want to talk about the podcast for a little bit because many people, authors, thought leaders, speakers, etc., are doing various things with podcasts, right? So one path is I'm going to be a guest on a lot of podcasts. Another path is I'm going to be targeted and focused and only a guest on the podcast that line up to the people I want to reach. The other option might be to be a host. So tell me about the path that you've chosen, and why, and what you've learned from podcasting. And obviously, you're a guest and a host, so you sit on both sides of that.
I like talking to people, man.
Okay,
That's basically what it came down to. Is I like talking to people. I'm a little raw.
right. So, but the talking to people, hold on, but I want to pause on that because I think you fast forwarded through a key piece. Many people struggle with finding the right modality, right? The right canvas for them. So for some people that are natural writers, they love to just lock up in a room and think wonderful thoughts and then outflows beautiful prose and whatever. Other people struggle with that. Other people, video is their thing. Like they need the energy of seeing that little red light on the camera. You said you like to talk, and I think there's some real wisdom in the simplicity of that. So hey, if you like to talk and you don't like to write, then podcast seems like it would be a good thing.
I like to talk to people.
Yeah.
I do like to talk. I do. On my podcast, I do every Friday. This little motivational thing comes out, like a little short hit, a
Yep.
little short thing every for like 5 minutes. But I like this, man. I like to get to know people. I like to see how people think. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our country is that we think we're so different, right? You are a red stater. You are red or you are blue, and those are your only two options. And I don't really think that many people fall in those
Right.
categories.
It's more gray. It's
It's way more
yeah,
purple.
exactly.
It's way more purple. So I like to talk to people so that we can point out how similar we are. One, and two, like I told you, like what I found was that people helped me get out of my anxiety. So if I can have the biggest community possible, then I can create that for other
Got
people.
it. So, but tell me more about what you've learned. So, on the podcasting side, one thing you've learned is, hey, this is I'm comfortable talking. I like talking. I love the art of conversation. So this would be the format for me. Are there things that you used to do with your podcast that you don't do anymore? You say, I thought that would be a good idea, whether it's format or style or frequency or technology. And you say, but now I'm doing it a little bit differently. Trying to learn from your past.
No,
Yeah.
no, I just know I have to shut the fuck up. I said I like to talk
Okay.
too much, right? So like this, I get to talk a lot because I'm the guest, right? But when I'm the host, I need to shut the fuck up a
So,
little
but
more
but let's talk about that,
because
right? So you know that you like to talk, and I think that's an interesting point where a lot of authors, thought leaders, speakers, they're used to either from a personality type or a professional type being the center of attention, right? If you're a keynoter, I'm paying you a lot of money to get up on stage and speak for 60 minutes, so shut up and talk, right? Like that's my expectation. In the now when you're wearing the hat of a podcaster, your goal not necessarily is to listen per se, but is to create great content in the spoken form. So sometimes you have to poke at a guest a little bit, pride, not be that center of attention, be the center of attention, pivot it. So you had to learn to pull back a little bit and make it about the guest. Is that a fair summary?
yeah, so that's definitely fair. And then also, right, you have to like when you're having that guest on that's not coming out, that's not like letting like they're just answering yes, no. You're like, God damn it. Like, so
Right,
I have to learn how to
right.
talk a little more to get that going. And then you have to switch once it's going, once they feel comfortable, once you've built a rapport. Now I have to back myself off and shut up. So
Got it.
that's something I really had to learn how to do.
Right. Well, some of that is open-ended question versus closed-ended questions, etc. Okay, so that's one thing that you've learned. Anything else that you've learned in terms of, I don't know, magic questions? I'll call them. So sometimes as a host, so I've done, I don't know, 170 or 180 that I've hosted now. So not that I'm an expert, but I'm smarter now than I was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So I have some hip pocket, like if things get stuck, let me throw this out, or a couple of things there. Do you have any little tools of the trade or tips and tricks, or when you're stuck, try this thing?
I just like to keep going with questions.
Okay.
I literally just ask more about the person, and
Okay.
then something tends to come out,
Good.
right? Like, so they give you an answer, and then like, hey man, like what you said, you stopped on, hey, hold on, I want to stick on this thought, and then
Yeah.
you asked another question about that thought. Like that's something that you have to be listening. I think that's the hard part sometimes is with people who are talkers, is we like to talk too much, and we like to tell people our opinions.
Right.
So I have to be like, okay, there's the nugget. Like I have you're just like you're breaking things down and funneling things down until you get to the stuff that's spitting out the bottom of the end. You have all this shit up
Yep.
at the top of the funnel that you could talk about. And I think a lot of times when you get people on your shows that are not good talkers, they don't know what to talk about. So they just get stuck in the of what we're going to talk about. So you have to funnel it down as the host to really
Yep.
ask good questions. But the only way you can ask good questions is if you're actually listening.
So I can tell you from my perspective, and I think it's a capability I'm developing further as a host, is I've got, my guests are people like you. They're smart, they're accomplished, they're talented, they're interesting people, right? And everybody comes from a place where what is most familiar to them or the way they operate, they don't give it any thought. Like, of course I do that, right? So when you mentioned, you went very quickly over, well, the spoken words, I like the spoken word. I'm like, that's a big point. You didn't think of it as a key point. I did. I could be wrong, but I thought that was a really interesting point to say, yeah, I'm a spoken word guy, not a writer, not a video guy, whatever. And that's really, really cool. So I think that you have to sort of train yourself to find slow experts down and hold that nugget up to the light and examine it a little bit with them.
You have to
Yeah.
really listen. Like if you're not really listening, then you can't really have a conversation, right? It's like it's like it's like dating, right? Like if you want a real relationship, like you have to take the person out to dinner and listen. Like this whole idea right now with where nobody will go out on a date, they'll only meet for coffee first.
Right.
Man, shit, that's like 10 minutes. Like you're like looking at your watch to get out of the room. Go in there and be
Right.
uncomfortable. Like go have dinner. Man, we have all had shitty dinners before in our lives. Have
Well,
another
but
one.
I can tell you back, there is nothing worse than a date that you're stuck with for dinner for 2.5 hours when you both knew in 30 seconds this is going nowhere. But I understand your point.
I agree, right? But that's what makes you know what the magic is on the other end.
Right.
Like
No,
when
that's
you
true.
get one that's really good. Because really what we do is we find out what we like by finding out what we don't like.
That's a good point.
So if you sit in there in the crap of it, in the shit of it,
Yep.
then you're like, well, and it's almost like this process of elimination of saying, oh, nope, that's what I
Yep.
like, and almost by like not default by nope, don't like that, don't like that,
Yeah.
don't like that, no, 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 yes.
Well, the only way you know if you like Brussels sprouts or not is to taste them, right? So it's the same concept. So cool. As we're
You
starting
can't
to,
you can't boil them, Peter. That's the biggest mistake with Brussels
is it?
sprouts.
Why would you boil them?
If
That would taste like
That's how
mush.
everyone made them. Everyone made them that way. Like when I was younger, I only had them boiled and I hated them. But man, you got to roast those bitches.
You got to roast them. Roast, little olive oil, salt and pepper. Done.
Little vial of salt and pepper. If you really want to go, you got to add some type of pork product, bacon, pancetta.
Well, then you
Mm.
can just like
Mm.
skip the Brussels sprout and it's no longer a vegetable, but that's a whole other
No,
problem.
you have to tell yourself you're eating healthy.
There you go. Cool. All right. So as we're wrapping up here, Elliot, any final thoughts, and frame it from the standpoint of someone else is out there and they're early in their journey as a thought leader on things to ponder and think about.
What do you love?
Great. That's a great answer.
What do you love? Find what you love, right? Find what you love and then don't give a shit about failure. You are going to fail so much. It's just like the dating analogy that I just gave, right? You're going to fail and you're going to mess it up and you're going to do this wrong, 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 wrong. Oh man, little less wrong, little less wrong, little
Yep.
less wrong. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Here I go. But we're so scared
Yep.
of failing. We're so scared of what other people on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. I mean, these young kids on TikTok these
Yep.
days, wherever it is, I don't know, your mom and dad, your friends and peers, what they're going to think of
Mm-hmm.
you when it didn't go well.
Love it. Love it. Well, this has been great. I greatly appreciate your candor, your transparency, your ability to sort of put it all out there and just share your journey with us and your story. And thank you so much for your time today, Ellie. This has been great.
I appreciate it, man. That's why I say jiu-jitsu is rule number one, because you come in getting beat up. So you're so used to it that like a little more here or there doesn't really
That's
bother
great.
you that
Well,
much.
thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.